Hello, 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 friends. Just Rhonda here to, on a different day than normal, to just briefly, this won't be very long. After reading through the entire search warrant, there's really only a couple of places that are really relevant to talk about. And so um, I don't think it'll take very long. Plus, I don't have any guests on the panel with me tonight. So, not that any of them do much talking anyway when my mic is unmuted. But so there's, I don't know, there really wasn't. I don't know if I disappointed really, or if I was thinking that it was going to be a lot more than it is, but we'll go over it briefly. And a lot of the about 20 pages, 19 pages of it are the probable cause, the PCA that we read last week, or the week before. So we won't even go through all of that again. We've already done that, and we know what was in it. But it was part of the unsealing of this search warrant as well. So there's really no need to go through all that again. And especially near the end when it starts talking about all the places where, he traveled and where he was pinging and all the different numbers and addresses and roads and all that different stuff. It got a little boring, I guess. I don't know. That's probably not a very nice way to put it, but boring in the sense that because I have no frame of reference, I've never been there, it really doesn't say a lot to me. So before I get started on all that, though, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and make sure that you're, liking and sharing the content with others. I'm picking up subscribers little by little here, but I'm kind of stuck at about 356 now. And that's okay. I want to get more subscribers, mostly because I need to bring a lot more awareness to Daniel's case, of course. But, in the meantime, while we're kind of in a lull in Daniel's case, I'm covering some of these other cases, especially the Idaho 4 case. I guess it's what it's been kind of dubbed, the Idaho 4 case. So before I get started, I want to say hello to Clairview. I haven't seen you for so long. It's been a long winter already, and it's not even halfway over. So thank you for being here, Claire. I know you do a ton of stuff. You've always got something exciting to share on your channel, and I try to watch the replays because I'm rarely ever available when you go live, and I feel really bad about that. But I want to try to start seeing more of your live stuff because I love being in your chat. It's so much fun, and listening to your panel. And if you highlight my comment or something and it sparks a bit of a discussion, I love being able to be a part of that too. So Claire, thank you so much for being here and for sharing this video tonight. You mentioned that you tweeted it out for me, so I really appreciate that. And Rosie, how are you? It's great to see you here as well. Thank you so much for returning each time I pop on with something new and exciting. I will, after I go over this search warrant, what little bit of it we're really going to cover, I will kind of give an update about what's going on in Oklahoma with Richard Glossip, and then again, what little bit of news, if we want to call it that, in Daniel's case. So at any rate, we will, let me get this document up for you. And I will I've read through all of it. Somehow, I don't know how I did that because I haven't been home from work for very long. So, well, actually, a lot of it I skipped through. Now that I'm thinking, I did skip through all of the PCA that we had already had and read. When I realized that was in there as well, I went ahead and just kind of skipped over it. So I guess I did cheat a little bit, but I'm going to, oops, pull this back up to the beginning. And I will kind of cover a little bit about why it was sealed initially, because it really was kind of odd that it was sealed at all to begin with. And so, or at least it seemed odd, at least after we had I can't make this thing collapse. Once we had the PCA, it didn't seem like it didn't make a lot of sense to me that they would keep the Pullman, Washington um, uh, search warrant sealed. But we'll go over, why that was possibly done that way. And for now, I'm going to go ahead. Hey, Behind the Magic, it is so great to see you. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your support. So we'll go over the first part of this that was unsealed today. So this is just the motion um, and the order to unseal the warrant. And what I did was, it comes now the state of Washington by and through Dennis Tracy, Whitman County prosecuting attorney, and moves the court for an order to unseal the return of service of the search warrant. Um, and then it gives the number of the search warrant from Idaho. Or from Washington. And then it says the basis is these warrants were issued and served in Washington state because a suspect in the crimes resided and worked here during the time of the murders. These warrants, I'm kind of switching back and forth between, see if I can get this all up here. Okay. These warrants and associated applications were sealed due to the serious or sensitive nature. Let me get back to my actual document. Due to the sensitive nature of the investigation at that time. Since then, an extensive probable cause affidavit has been unsealed in Latah County, Idaho, which has alleviated the need for sealing of the return of service here in Washington. And so, because there's it'll go, and then this is the order here by the judge in Washington. So it kind of goes over why. If some of you remember, it was we get the reasons why they wanted this search warrant at the apartment in Washington sealed. And so it kind of tells in this motion, it says, comes now the state of Washington by and through Dennis Tracy, Whitman County prosecuting attorney, and moves the court for an order to keep sealed the search warrant and search warrant application, but to allow the state to file redacted versions which replace the victim witnesses' names with initials. And so the concern was not the only concern, but the biggest concern was making sure that the victim witnesses, the two young ladies who survived, to protect them and protect their identities. Unfortunately, those identities were very, very quickly after the PCA. Their identities were very quickly made known, and so now they're, especially DM, they're in the news now. They're in all of the reports and all of the things that we're seeing on different YouTube channels or articles or magazines or whatever. We're getting their names. So, but that is what they did in this motion, was to say, okay, we'll unseal it, but in the best interest of the safety and sensitivity to the families of the victims, of course, but also to the young ladies that did survive that vicious murder, to protect them and keep them safe from any possible harm that could come. Well, then we have to say, well, but if we've got the alleged, if they're if they are certain that they have the alleged killer in jail, then what do we need? What are we keeping them safe from? Well, this is completely 100% just my opinion and my opinion only. But if you watched last week when I did the show I did last week, I got a little passionate because of some of the crap that's going on from people online, the attacks that Dylan, one of the survivors whose testimony or whose witness statement is in that PCA, she has really been beat the hell up, like just ruthlessly attacked for not having done what everybody else says they would have done. And I got really passionate about it. I got angry about it. And it was like, no, not one single one of us, no matter who we think we are or who we know ourselves to be, there's not one of us who can say what we would have done in her position. So anyway, I got really uptight about that, and we discussed it for a little bit. But what I would argue now, when they're talking about the safety and sensitivity to these surviving young ladies, that to me, that's part of it. Because what happened as soon as her name came out, even before her name was publicized, when it was still just initials, and once that PCA came out and it was just the initials initially that we had, people were already like, well, why didn't she? There's no way that she would. Why wouldn't she go in her room and close the door and lock it and not call up? All the things that people said, and they just attacked her mercilessly online. And then it just got worse and worse and worse as the week has gone on, and it's been really frustrating to me and upsetting to me. I don't. I only have one semester of psych. I had Psych 101. One semester of psychology in college, but I worked in the state mental hospital for years, and many of you know that. And so I don't have the book knowledge for psychology, but I have the physical or direct work with the psychology with my patients at the state mental hospital. And so plus, I mean, I had to go through training to work at the state hospital. So they didn't just throw us in there and say, okay, go figure this out. There were certain things that it wasn't like studying or opening up a big textbook or anything like that, but we got, we needed to know certain things to look for and why a certain patient acts, behaves a certain way when they hear the word no, or, make sure you don't let, patient so-and-so, see you making this, gesture or whatever, just all kinds of things like that were legitimate. And we had to know things like that. And so, not to mention patients who were high functioning enough that they could actually tell their stories or parts of their stories and parts of their traumas. So I had experience, in the way people behave emotionally. And plus with the study, and I know people are probably so tired of hearing me say this, but in studying criminal justice, I mentioned that we also had to do a course in criminology, which talks a lot about hey, Crockett, it's great to see you. I thank you for jumping in, and I really appreciate that. Nope, it doesn't. Yeah, there's so much injustice out there and tragedy and trauma that it's really heartbreaking. Yeah, I appreciate the word grit, and I appreciate your admiration. That's very kind of you. Because I do get a little passionate at times. But thank you, and thank you for popping in. But we had to study. We studied a lot of serial killers, for instance. or not even necessarily a serial killer, but some sort of killer who maybe only did one crime, but we needed to, work on the psychology of that crime. Well, so we learned those things, or we studied those things, but you also have to then put a victim in that same place, in a sense, only not a sociopathic victim, not one who's crazy, but one who's just your everyday normal, college student who would never expect to find themselves in a situation like this, and how it might possibly affect them to go through it. And so poor Dylan has just really, now that her name is known, I guess she's just being attacked all over the place, and mostly on the internet. But I guess people are trying to get at her publicly too. And I just, that mentality does not make sense to me. I no matter how it gets explained to me, or why people do things like that, or say things when they, cruel things, it doesn't make sense to me that anybody would feel arrogant enough to be able to treat another human that way for no reason, really, other than they didn't do or say what that person thought they should have said or done. So it's really pathetic. But anyway, so and so that's kind of what they, part of the protection and sensitivity of keeping the search warrant sealed was for. So the motion was that they moved the court for an order to keep it sealed, and but allow the state to file redacted versions, which would replace victims' witnesses' names and initials, and which had been done in the PCA. So the basis is the Washington State Constitution recognizes that victims of crimes have rights, and states that, quote, effective law enforcement depends on cooperation from victims of crime, end quote. And the Washington State Legislature has recognized that there is a severe and detrimental impact on crime victims, survivors of victims, and witnesses of crime, and yet there is the civic and moral duty of victims, survivors of victims, and witnesses of crimes to fully and voluntarily cooperate with law enforcement and prosecutorial agencies. So, as soon as they can get a witness, surviving witness, to come forth and give as much information as they possibly can, that's expected. But in return, they are due the rights of privacy and, protection in sensitivity, the best that can be done. And in this way, for this particular case, they used initials as a way to protect the surviving victims. In a criminal proceeding, the law requires that a reasonable effort is made to ensure that victims, survivors of victims, and witnesses of crimes have the right to receive protection from harm and threats of harm arising out of cooperation with law enforcement and prosecution efforts. So, and Washington courts have long acknowledged that a victim's initials can be substituted for their name. Excuse me. So, exactly kind of what I was saying. They're expected to, to be forthcoming with information, with the guarantee that they will be protected as best they possibly can. So, let's see how much we're going to swipe through here. So that was the order to seal the document, the search warrant. Now, this is it's redacted, the search warrant, and it says this was to any peace officer in the state of Washington. So any peace officer who had information or had information or physical evidence or anything that could relate to this crime in Idaho was obligated to turn it over per this order. Upon the sworn complaint made before me, there is probable cause to believe that the crimes of murder in the first degree and burglary per Idaho code has been committed in Idaho, and that evidence of that or those crimes or contraband, the fruits of a crime, or things otherwise criminally possessed, or weapons or other things by means of which a crime has been committed or reasonably appears about to be committed, is concealed in or on certain premises. Let's just say that somebody was in some college administrator was in Kohberger's office at the school and found a knife that sounded like the knife that matched the sheath. That person would be obligated to turn that over to law enforcement. I don't know if that's exactly what this is saying or what it means, but that's what my logic. My logic isn't always logical, but that's what it's telling me. So anybody who sees it, of course, peace officers, specifically here, but so anyway, in making this determination, this court did not consider the information in the supplemental disclosure regarding DNA tests as evidence supporting the existence of probable cause. This court also does not consider the information in that supplemental disclosure to be exculpatory. So the order goes on and tells them that they, within 10 days of that date, that they are to serve this warrant. I'm sure it happens, but I can't imagine them waiting, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 days. I would imagine it would be done in most cases as quickly as possible. And then they describe up here, they're describing where the house is, where the apartment is, exactly, very detailed, what it looks like, what the number on the door of the residence is, everything. And they have, there's been plenty of crazy stories in the news where law enforcement have served search warrants, and some of them violent and aggressive, on the wrong residence. So they give every possible description that they can in the warrant. And number 2, to seize, if located, evidence of the above listed crimes, including, okay, we'll go through these. I'll read through these quickly, including 1, blood or other bodily fluid or human tissue or skin cells, or items with blood or other bodily fluid or human tissue or skin cells on the items. So, for instance, a knife that has any of those things on it. Of course, knives, sheaths, and other sharp tools, including any dagger, dirk, or sword, or any written indicia of ownership of the same, including sales receipts. So anything that shows, Sportsman Warehouse, I don't know if they have those across the country, or Cabela's, we'll just use Cabela's. If there's a Cabela's seat with a K-bar knife on it, they're going to want that receipt. Any images, whether digital or on paper or any other format, which show Ethan Chapin, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, or Madison Mogan, BF or DM, and or those housed at 1122 King Road, Moscow, Idaho, and or the surrounding neighborhood. So anything that can be connected to any of the 6 of them. Clothing, including but not limited to dark shirts, dark pants, masks, shoes with diamond pattern sole. And the diamond pattern sole is determined that it was a Vans tennis shoe that was found. So, hey, Kay, thanks for popping in. You're welcome to jump on with me if you'd like to. I think there's a link in the Avengers. Yeah. And so, I already lost my train of thought. Excuse me. Anyway, anything that could possibly be connected to any of them. the clothing and all of the shoes, the diamond patterned sole. So the diamond patterned sole on the shoe was determined to be what is on the bottom of Vans skate shoes, and so it's been determined that it's from that type of a shoe, that brand of a shoe, Vans. And so because there was a latent footprint, shoe print in the house that they were able to lift. Trace evidence, including DNA from blood or skin cells or other source, footprints, fingerprints, hair, whether human or animal or dog, and that may be included because of the dog, because of Kaylee's dog. It's reasonable to believe that he would have. Yeah, I can't remember exactly. For whatever reason, the professor's name or the historic detective's name has left my mind, and the exact phrase, but basically he said you never, any place that you enter, you take DNA in and leave it, and when you leave that place, you take DNA back out with you from that place. And there's a whole little saying that goes with that. I'll have to try to find that later. At one time I did have it memorized because we had to talk about that in one of the classes in college, was to, we studied the guy. Clearly it didn't stick with me, but anyway, it's in my mind. It's just lost somewhere. Excuse me. So that's what the whole shoes with diamond pattern sole, they were specifically looking for Vans shoes. Then, yeah, so or the animal or dog hair, because they were assuming that it was logical that he may be taking animal or dog hair back to his apartment from the scene. Data compilations, whether digital, electronic, or on paper or other formats, showing an interest in or planning of murder, violent assault, stabbing, and or cutting of people, and data compilations showing details of the 1122 King Road house, its location, and or any information about Ethan Chapin, Kaylee Gonzalez, Santa Kernodle, Madison Mogan, BF or DM, and data compilations showing the location of the Bryan Kohberger or the cell phone with his number, and on November 13th of 2022. And then it goes into all the different things that could be digitally linked. Wi-Fi logs, and data metadata, which a lot of us have learned what metadata is about now. And so social media posts or applications on cell phones or computers, computer towers, tablets, laptops, and all those things. Anything there of any nature, of any of that kind of stuff, was to be seized. As an example, but not intended to be an exclusive list of data compilation being sought, ledgers, papers, lists, books, notes, letters, calendars, address books, contact lists, diaries, tapes, photographs, videos, email, text message, social media posts and messages, and metadata associated therewith. And then it kind of goes through this part here, kind of goes through details everything digital and or electronic. And I mean, I could go through it, but and I will if people want me to, but really it's all, it all is, those of us who have, studied the Stephen and Brendan's case, any case really that's, been decided and that used a lot of or discusses. KZ brings up a lot of electronic stuff in Stephen's case, and they accused Stephen of, one of the things they used against him was pornography found on his computer. So all of those things, any possible way that you can possibly imagine, they're wanting it seized. And that's what all of this kind of goes through. This particular bullet point: evidence of use of the device to conduct internet searches relating to a review of other murders or violent assault, stabbing, and or cutting of people, as well as how to avoid detection after the commission of such crimes. And then it asks for details of the 1122 King Road house, the location, the neighborhood, the area in general. The corner bar was a place that they all went to. The girls went to what was it, the grub truck or something, on their way home that night. So any of those kinds of things as well. That's a good question, Kay. Kay says she wonders if there are any pictures of him in his vans. That would be, you know what? I would not be surprised if law enforcement, if the detectives are looking for that, because that would make sense to see that, to see pictures like they did with OJ. Not that it mattered, but like they did with OJ, those Bruno Malley shoes that he swore he never owned because they were ugly. And then they found they found the receipt for them or whatever it was. So yeah, that would be really interesting to find out. So also any information that can be used to calculate the position of the device between the dates, and a lot of that was all exhibited in the PCA, cell phone pinging and towers and just different things of times when his phone was off or when it was on or what, just all that stuff. That's how they have such a tight timeline, is mostly through his phone. And then of course they have to have evidence of the identity of the person in possession of that device. They wanted password, phrases, codes, patterns, fingerprints, and/or usernames to operate the device. Indicia of residence in or ownership or possession of the premises and of the above items, including mail receipts, identification, bills, rental agreements, licensing documents, and other personal property whose owner or possessor may be readily determined. Yeah, that would be like, if they were searching my home to prove that I was renting here, before they gather this information and evidence against me, they want to see something that proves that I actually live here, like my rental agreement or the phone bill to this address in my name and things like that. So promptly return this warrant to me or the clerk of this court. The return must include an inventory of all property seized. And so that's what, today I'm going through and reading and waiting for this, huge list and explanation of items that were found, because I knew that items had been found and turned over. Anyway, then they also have to, say where the items that they did find and locate where they were found and all those things. This is a declaration by Don Daniels, the Assistant Chief of WSU Police Department, declare that I have personal knowledge of the matters herein and or am relying on witness statements, information provided by my fellow officers, including fellow officers from the state of Idaho, reports and other material I have gathered in my investigation, and that I am competent to testify to the matters stated herein. On the basis of the following, I believe there is probable cause that Bryan Kohberger has committed the crimes of murder, first degree, Idaho Code, and then it gives the codes, and burglary, Idaho Code, and it gives those, and that evidence of those crimes, weapons, or other things by means of which a crime has been committed or reasonably appears about to be committed. So those were the two main those are the two main boxes that she checked to, for why she was asking for this search warrant. And then she gives oh crap, what did I do? I don't know where I went. Okay. And then she gives, the information of where the house is located. Again, we get the exact description of where the house is and what it looks like and everything else. Affiance, I am a police officer at Washington State University Police Department and have been so employed since July 20th, 1998. I attended and successfully completed the 440-hour Washington State criminal, and she's going through all the things that she, well, not all, but she's giving a brief overview of her credentials, I guess, to why she's legitimate and credible and not fit, but able to ask for these things. She's got the experience. So the persons that were providing the information: Moscow, Idaho Police Sergeant Dustin Blaker. Sergeant Blaker's sworn statement is attached here to as Exhibit A and is hereby incorporated in this application for search warrant. And that's where it talks about, where it starts with the PCA. So we won't go through well, hold on a second. Okay, nope, I'm lying. Hold on. Sergeant Blaker identifies his experience and training in this statement. Other officers and witnesses are identified in Sergeant Blaker's sworn statement. The investigation, it says, I was contacted by Moscow police officers and asked to assist their investigation into the recent murder of 4 people in Moscow, Idaho. Sergeant Blaker of the Moscow Police Department has developed probable cause to believe that a resident of Whitman County, Bryan Kohberger, committed the murders and burglary. I agree with Sergeant Blaker's statement that there is probable cause to believe that Kohberger committed the murders and burglary, and that there is probable cause to believe that evidence of those crimes will be located in Kohberger's apartment. I am seeking this search warrant to search that apartment. The probable cause is described in detail, attached as Exhibit A, and a sworn statement of Sergeant Blaker is hereby incorporated herein in this reference, just as if fully set forth here. And then it's going to go through all of these things here again, are all the same things that were outlined in the original search warrant. So we won't go through all those again. In addition, I'm asking the court to authorize, in the service of the search warrant, the use of assistance from any law enforcement agencies from the state of Idaho or the federal government, or any technical specialists associated with or employed by or contracted with such law enforcement agencies, including but not limited to the Moscow Police Department, Idaho State Police, FBI, Idaho State Police Forensic Services. I'm also asking for authorities of assistance from a technical specialist to review any digital devices and digital media for the best and least intrusive method of securing digital evidence that the warrant authorizes for seizure, and to assist in securing such evidence. And then it kind of gives a little detail here about the sheath, the knife sheath, the DNA. I have been informed by Detective J.R. Talbot of the Idaho State Police that on November 13th, 2022, a sheath was recovered at the King Road residence under or next to the body of Madison Mogan. The Idaho State Crime Lab obtained a male DNA suspect profile from the sheath. This is also referred to in Sergeant Blaker's sworn statement. And we read about that in the PCA. On December 27th, law enforcement agents and officers in Pennsylvania recovered trash that originated from the Kohberger family residence. That trash was sent to the Idaho State Crime Lab for testing. On the 28th of December, the Idaho State Crime Lab reported that DNA profile was obtained from the trash, and it was compared to the suspect DNA profile. The lab personnel concluded that the source of the trash DNA profile was a male and was not being excluded as the biological father of the source of the suspect profile. At least 99.9998% of the male population would be expected to be excluded from the possibility of being the biological father of the source of the suspect profile. And I didn't retain very much from math, but I do know that when you go over from that decimal point to two spaces, so you've got 9 here and 9 here. This 9 takes it over the top and makes this just a full 100% basically. So it says 9998%, but it's really 9.99% or 100% really. Can't be 100% because nobody's DNA matches. So except for twins. What do they call those? Identical twins. My mom is a twin, has a twin sister, and they're identical twins, even though they don't really look like twins. They look like sisters, just not like twins, but they're identical twins. And I kept wanting to get my mom to have her DNA tested before she passed away. And she was like, no. I mean, she just, she didn't want any part of that. And I was really I was doing a lot of genealogy research on Ancestry and my heritage in different places because I'm still really interested in my heritage and my bloodline. She didn't want anything to do with it. So I was really kind of disappointed, but I didn't really bother her. Hi, West Virginia. Thanks for popping in. Shaz, it's great to see you here as well. Yeah, I am live. I'll be live again tomorrow. So this is a quicker version tonight of the Idaho 4 case, but I think we'll be talking more about Daniel tomorrow. So anyway, so she didn't want anything to do with it. And I was really kind of disappointed because I really wanted to know what as close to me as I could possibly get our family genealogy. And so she refused, and I didn't really bother her. And then when she passed away in the summer of 2019, and I thought I'm not even going to be able to, trick her into getting a sample for DNA for 23andMe now. I'm not even going to be able to trick her. But about a year, it was about 6 or 8 months after she passed away, I was like, oh my God, my mom's identical twin sister is still alive. And so I knew that I could use that to get, the exact lineage. So my aunt agreed to let me, I sent her the kit and she sent it all in and everything. So even though I don't have my mother's exact from her mouth DNA, I do have her DNA or, her results based on the results of my aunt. So basically, getting back to this, there's just no doubting that is the father of the biological father of the source of the DNA left on the sheath. The information is being provided to the court pursuant to my duty and obligation to be fully candid with the court. I do not believe this information is exculpatory for the suspect. However, if the court believes it is exculpatory, then the court should consider this supplemental disclosure in its evaluation of the existence of probable cause or lack thereof. But I am specifically asking the court to not consider this supplemental disclosure as evidence supporting the existence of probable cause. The reason for this request is that if the DNA test results are held inadmissible at some point, such a ruling would not impact the findings of the probable cause for this warrant, so long as this court is satisfied as to the probable cause, regardless of the DNA test result. I am not going to lie. I was like, oh, what? But, whatever the wording of that is, if somebody can explain that better to me, I mean, I think I know exactly what it's saying, but for me to try to convey it in my mind, I can make sense of it and know what it means, but I couldn't possibly try to convey it because I don't have the language. Let's see. Shaz says, I've been listening on my phone for a bit. When I was outside with the puppy, I was surprised to see you live today. I was surprised to see me live today too. Yes, I was surprised too. But I just thought, we'll just this, like I said, this is not as much as I thought it was going to be, but there's a little bit. So anyway, that comes from the prosecutor. Now, this is the statement. This is the probable cause, um, the PCA that we're not going to go through again. So I'll try to skip past here. Well, there's no point in going over it again. Now, I was listening earlier today when I was at work. I was listening to somebody who I hadn't heard of yet on YouTube that's covering the case. And I got really, I don't know how I felt. I mean, I know how I felt about it, but it really kind of bothered me too. But this guy, his channel is called Drunk Turkey Crew, I think. And he had this lady that had been calling his channel, and he's claiming that her kids were close to the situation in Moscow, Idaho. Anyway, she's going on, and the more I listened to her, the more I thought, okay, I mean, I'm not calling her a liar because I don't know. I have no way of knowing, but she sounds like a conspiracy theorist, hardcore. Her two kids go to Idaho State University, so they're familiar with the area. And they were in Moscow on the 12th of November for some university game or something. I don't remember what she said. And they left and went home. The mom and dad did. And she got an alert. And I'm guessing that there must be alerts. I don't know what it is, but she kept referring to it as alerts, and said that she got an alert that there was, I'm guessing, about the murders at the 1122 King Road. And she was just shocked because I guess it was the night that, that later that afternoon when the bodies were discovered and everything, and they get an alert and telling about it. And so she says that she sent her daughter a text, or called her daughter and said, "Did you hear about the murders in Moscow at this house by the whichever Delta, whatever. Gosh, what are those houses called? Those Greek. What the heck am I trying to say? Where they pledged for whatever. But anyway, hi William, it's great to see you here. Anyway, from where Ethan and Xana were. So her daughter and her son were familiar with all that, familiar with the corner club and the grub truck that the girls had gone to. They knew about all of it. And the daughter said, "Oh, I already knew about it." And she said, her mom asked her when. She said, I heard about it around 10 a.m. Well, it was never, according to the news, it wasn't called in or known until, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was around 11:45 or 12-ish in that afternoon. And so her mom was like, "What do you mean? They just found the bodies. What do you mean you knew at 10? They didn't find them until whatever the hour." Anyway, so she's just like, and this mother's just like going crazy on this guy's channel, and there's something up, and the police know that this other guy, she's trying to say that there was somebody killed at some point late. Sorority house. Yes, Rosie, thank you. Sorority. Gosh, I couldn't think of it. But so she was trying to say that whoever it was, and I'm going to have to look up this case now because it's driving me crazy, but there was supposedly somebody killed there in Pullman. In a, I guess he was shot by the cops. He was refusing to come. I don't even know though. she was really hard to understand. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to have to look into this case, because she believes that this person who was shot and killed by the police um, sometime later in November, I believe it was actually working with a part of this with Bryan Kohberger, and now he's dead and Kohberger's in jail. But she's insisting it goes much deeper than just the two of them. And she went on to talk about how the house in the 1122 King Road house was a known drug house or crack house. Oh, thank you, Rosie. Hey, whatever works. um, that it was a known drug house. Now, we've all heard that it was a party house. Everybody's said that and admitted that. To me, there's a difference between a party house and a crack house or a drug house. They're two different things. So I was really, I don't know why, but I was really offended that she said that it was a drug house. People knew if they wanted drugs, they knew they could go there to that house and get the drugs. And maybe they could. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that's what this lady's kids are telling her. They live in the area when they're going to school, so I guess they know. But anyway, it just was bothersome because these families, the kids' families they're already struggling and mourning and suffering. But for somebody to say that, and she kept saying, and the FBI has told me not to say anything. I'm not supposed to be, or law enforcement, or both. I don't remember which one she said. They told me not to say anything, but what are they going to do? I'm here now, and I'm just going to say what I know. And I just thought, okay, they probably told her not to say anything because they know she's full of shit. Hey, Sapper, thank you for popping in. I love your input. He says that story is flying around about the house and the second guy. Pretty wild speculations. That's what I thought too. I just thought, I don't know. The way this lady was talking was just, but this guy that was, had her on his show, he seems to kind of agree with her that, Sapper, you're welcome to come on if you have anything you'd like to share. I can send you the link in Discord. So anyway, I was really bothered by it, but at any rate, that's to me, those kinds of things they're conspiracy theories, but I feel like those kinds of things really clog up the investigation and make things more difficult, which is exactly why they probably are not trying to release a lot of information all at once. But also, on the other hand, because they're not trying to release very much information or be very transparent, is possibly why we start getting conspiracy theory crap like this. So yeah, people just want their 15 minutes, and she's getting it. This guy's got like 552,000 or whatever, 52,000 subscribers, and anyway, so good for her. She says, what are they going to do? Come and arrest me for telling? I don't think so. And I'm just like, whoa, lady, come on. So anyway, yeah, lots of people getting behind a keyboard and say anything. Yeah, I agree, Shaz. West Virginia says, I thought the same thing. Conspiracy is exactly no relations. The guy was 36 years old. The guy was suffering from PTSD. Yes, you're talking about the same one that they were talking about. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So at any rate, I got way off track here with this affidavit, but or this search warrant. So again, this is all still part of the PCA. Like I said, we're not going to go through that again. Instead, I'm just going to talk. That's what happened. I was scrolling through the pages and was trying to not have any dead airspace. Just modern digital. Now, at some point, I felt like the probable cause, I felt like the PCA ended, and I couldn't really figure out where it ended. Um, at any rate, then it just continues to go on about the different kinds of uh, information that they need, digital and technical and cloud based, and social media, paper, uh, anything that they wanted seized in the search warrant. So, and then it breaks down, the forensic examiner may also need the following items in order to conduct a thorough and accurate search: computer, hardware, software, peripherals, internal or external storage devices, power supplies, cables, internet connection, and all those things. So those are things, I don't know. I feel like a lot of it's very redundant, but I guess that's the way it is. It's the way they are. I also request authority to obtain assistance from technical specialists to review the digital devices and digital media, that they may secure in the seizure. Based on all the foregoing information, there is probable cause to believe that evidence of the above listed crimes exists in the below described digital devices, and that there is probable cause to seize and search those devices for the evidence of the above crimes for the date range August 21st, 2022 to 11:59 p.m. on November 14th, 2022, including, and then it goes through all those same things again. It just renames them all again. So we won't go through that again. I need to take a sip of water while I'm scrolling. Based on Idaho State police investigators' view of the apartment on December 27th, 2022, I know that the address, his place, is a 3-story multiple complex apartment building in Pullman, Washington, which is tan and white in color. And that describes the apartment again in detail. Um, so, based on all of the above information, I am seeking a search warrant for the Kohberger residence to search for blood. We went through that too in the very beginning. All the things that they're asking for, or wanting seized, that they can find related to all these different things, in Kohberger's apartment. Same thing here. Um, oh, they also, this might be the part. Paper list, books, notes. Nope. Information to calculate. Based off of the above information, I am also seeking a search warrant for Kohberger's office on the Washington State University campus. I have a probable cause to believe evidence of the crime committed at the King Road residence will be found in Kohberger's office located on the WSU campus. It's common for individuals to keep documents, records, and information of the type described above in their office, and Kohberger's office is the other location identified where this evidence could be found. And then it goes on to describe his office and where it is and where it's located, and that he shares it with 2 other students. So that's the end of that. And then I think this is the meat, really, of the whole thing. Let me just jump back here. See what we have for. Shaz says they can't defend for themselves now. That's sad. Just the types to ignore. Any wonder they are keeping everything close. Just like it took accused. Oh yeah, that accused the professor. Called that was horrible. Interesting. I wonder what's going on with that. Okay, here's what they. I was just let down. I don't know why I'm so terrible to think this way, But they, this is what they came up with. This is what they seized. Um, and all of the items were um, seized from the residence. It doesn't say anything about anything that was found in his office on the campus. So it says one nitrite type black glove, just one Walmart receipt. Let me get back over here. I think I can read it. Yeah. One Walmart receipt with one Dickies tag. 3, 2 Marshall's receipts. 4, dust container from a Bissell Power Force vacuum. That is probably going to be, I would imagine they will find something in that vacuum cleaner, possibly. I don't know, if he vacuumed out the car or if he vacuumed out, the house after he got there and got cleaned up and showered and everything. He may have vacuumed the house. I don't know. But that, I mean, I feel like, vacuum cleaner containers are pretty sometimes found with, good amounts of evidence in them. Now, these are really strange. 8 possible hair strands. One, this is even weirder. I'm still trying to figure this one out. And if any of you in the chat or anybody who watches this later, leave a comment in the or say something in the comments about it. But one Fire TV stick with cord and plug. I don't know. A Fire TV is, if I'm not mistaken, it's a streaming device sold by Amazon that allows you to stream the different streaming platforms on it. So they seized this, and I don't know if that Fire Stick can do more than just stream, or I don't know. But that was one of the things they seized that I was like scratching my head about it. I don't understand that one. It's not for me to understand, but and then one possible animal hair strand. One possible animal hair. Oh, R. Williams says he has a Fire Stick. Does it do more than just stream? It's just like cable TV. Yeah, I mean, maybe they can do a search for a history of things that he watched or something. I don't know. If he watched things regularly, but that could connect him. But listen, if that were going to be a thing, I'd be going to prison for somebody's murder because I'm always watching, just about everything I watch. Anything that I ever usually watch on TV is related to true crime in one way or another. So I don't know. Currently, right now, my daughter and I are watching a series. I think it's like 8 or 10 seasons long, called The Murder Tapes. So I'm like, well, shit. I'm looking at that thinking, well, that's scary. And I mean, not that I would, but William says maybe the cable was of interest. And yes, they could see his viewing history. So that could just very well be, what they're, somebody like me, it would mean nothing. But to somebody like him in the mindset and his psychology and what they know about him, it could mean something very different. So thank you, William. I appreciate that. So and then one possible animal hair strand. And then, and I don't know how this differs from the 8 possible hair strands up here on number 5, but they have 8, 9, and 10 are individual, one possible hair, one possible hair, one possible hair. I am not, again, it's not for me to know or understand, I guess, but that just looks weird to me, and I'm sure they have their reasons why it is. And then number 11 is, again, separate from these other 8 possible hair strands up here. Number 11 is one possible hair strand. So who knows? The computer tower, one collection of a dark red spot collected without testing. So they didn't do a presumptive on it. For what I can, for if I understand that the way I think I do, that they didn't do a presumptive. It just looked like a dark red spot, and so they took it. Um, oh, hey, Jinx. I'm just reading the list of things that were seized from Kohberger's apartment. Um, and so 2 cuttings from uncased pillow of reddish brown stain. The larger stain was tested, so they did do a presumptive test on it, it sounds like. And then two top and bottom of mattress cover packaged separately, both labeled C, multiple stains, one was tested. So that's it. That is all that was seized in that search warrant, and none of it was from, and that's the end of it. And none of it was from his office. So yeah, like I don't know. It's not very nice to say, but I was a little disappointed. So that's really, I feel horrible saying that, but I guess I just expected a lot more stuff to have been seized. But anytime you're getting animal hairs where an animal doesn't live, or you're finding brownish red stains on a pillow or on a mattress, and here's the thing. I personally, it's always been my opinion that this is not the first time he's killed. Whether he's killed multiple people before, like he did, like this Idaho thing. And let me just rephrase. This is not the first time this alleged killer has killed. Whoever the killer is, I don't feel like it's the first time they've killed anybody. And I'm not sure that whoever killed this alleged killer, Bryan Kohberger, I'm also not convinced that he planned on killing 4 people that night. Yeah, so let's see. T1 popped in wicked late. Sorry, what have I missed? MLR, everyone. Thank you for being here, T1. It's fine. We just were talking about the search warrant for Kohberger's apartment in Washington. It was unsealed today, and so we just kind of went over what was being asked for in the search warrant and what they actually did seize. We just went over a very short list as far as I'm concerned. Although there could be a lot more in that vacuum container too. So, there could be a lot more evidence found there as well. Whoops. So let's see. So Jinx, that's not the one. Oh, there we are. Those comments jumped. Jinx says, so what are the chances the hair and blood is his own? I guess none of the stains were tested. Well, only one, maybe 2 was tested for presumptive for blood, I guess. But I mean, there's every possibility that all of it's his, I suppose. And they just have to wait for forensics to test everything and figure it all out, because I mean, unless there's a long blonde hair, if those strands of hair are long blonde or long brown or long anything, it's probably not his, but it doesn't mean it belongs to any of them either. So do it again, you and T1 are late. Oh, God. T1 says, question, did BK live alone? Yes. Or did anyone else have access to his belongings, his cell phone, his vehicle, etc.? I know he did live alone. I haven't I have no reason to believe from anything I've read or watched, read mostly. I try to read instead of watching other things, but I haven't read or watched or heard anything about uh, his phone or his vehicle being compromised in any way. Doesn't mean it wasn't, though. Absolutely doesn't mean that. And we also have to remember that at least his dad was in the vehicle with him, when he was on his way home for Christmas after this all happened. So um, otherwise, uh, so there's could be DNA from hair and skin cells and all that stuff from his dad in the vehicle too, I'm sure. Jinx, do you think a crime like this would yield something of the victims in his own apartment? Yeah, I do. And before you came on, I was I'm gonna have to look it up, and I'll put it in Discord when I find it. But I think he's called the father of forensics or something. I can't remember what his title was, but he made a statement or coined a phrase or whatever you want to call it, and I'm paraphrasing big time, that wherever you go, you leave something there, and whenever you leave that place, you take something from there that you didn't have to begin with. You know what I mean? So I'll find that and put it in Discord in the office or something. Um, but yeah, I think that absolutely there could be DNA evidence of any kind really in his apartment. Um, I think that's what you were asking, Jinx. Um, and behind the magic, Jinx, it could be his own blood, but I guess that depends on how careful he was. I mean, my assumption is he jumps in the shower before laying on the bed. Oh God, hopefully. But if he took off his clothes and just dropped his clothes anywhere, if he just took off his clothes and dropped them on the bed, I mean, these are just speculations, of course. But he may have transferred blood because he's gonna. I don't know, but it seems to me like there was going to be a lot of blood on him. Um, from cast off and spatter and everything from what the PA said or PCA said. So no knife was found. It's supposed to be a shrug. You're so funny, BTM. Yeah, the potential accomplices. Um, I don't know. We were talking before you came in, and Sapper had made a comment that there's some conspiracy theory. I think it's being called a conspiracy theory that there was some other 38-year-old man or something who suffered from PTSD who ended up being shot by police sometime after these murders that was connected to Bryan Kohberger, and some of these CTs believe that he was working with Bryan Kohberger, and they were like a tag team of killers that night. um, so yeah, no knife was found. Now T1, there's still nothing saying that there wasn't a potential, that there wasn't an accomplice. Now, whether I think that this was a mind game that he was playing, but when he was arrested, it's been confirmed that he asked the law enforcement officers who arrested him, has anyone else been arrested? Now, that could have just been a thing for him to like try to, mind fuck them. I don't know. Or he could have been trying to find out, have you got my accomplice yet? It could have been a number of reasons why he said that. Um, no knife, unfortunately. Behind the magic, I'm thinking he changed clothes before arriving home. I kind of think so too. Um, when they showed on their diagram that U-shaped uh, uh, t- uh, way that he went back home that was abnormal. Um, he could have dumped a lot of stuff. He could have dumped the weapon there, the other glove to the black nitrate glove that they did find. He could have, gotten rid of his all the bloody clothes there. I mean, maybe he was wearing Tyveks underneath the black clothing and got rid of those. I mean, it could be a lot of things, really. Um, all speculation, for sure. Um, let's see. Jinx says that's possible and thrown away along the highway as he drove. Yeah, I agree with that. Behind the magic, if he got in that car as he was, he's toast. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Oh, you guys, your comments are great. Yes, Jinx, he took an extremely long way out of the route home. Yeah, like I believe it was a couple of hours out of the way or more. Jinx, unless he pre-planned plastic seat coverings or something, speculating. Yeah, I don't know. I've thought about that too. I've speculated the same thing. Um, he either had to have those seats covered, or he dumped his clothes, or he left a lot of blood in the vehicle, or he stripped those bloody clothes off before he got in the car to leave. So, I mean, something's got to seem logical there. So, yeah, I kind of think I think he tried to cover the seats and stuff, or at least the driver's seat of the car. He would have to. I mean, he would have been. Oh my goodness, something is in my eye and I can't see. But he would have to have. He had to have been at least intelligent enough to know to do that. That's what I'm trying to say while I'm trying to figure out what's in my freaking eyeball. T1 says, in my opinion, he may believe he is smarter than the average person in this area of committing a crime. His educational background in this area had to be present in his planning and strategy. Even now, I completely agree. And if any of you have had the opportunity to read his survey that he posted on the college website and on Reddit, you would really, like, your mind would definitely go there that he thinks he's smarter, and he definitely believes he's smarter. What about this shot person? Where's that story post? I haven't read that story, Jinx. Oh, you found it. Okay. Wait, which story are you talking about? The guy that got shot and killed with PTSD? Yeah, and it was you mean, oh, Jinx, your questions are firing too fast for my brain. So that's a lot to do in 16 minutes. Killing the kids in the house. Yeah, that's a lot of killing in 16 minutes. It almost seems impossible, which kind of makes you think, was there somebody else, or did he just get in there and get down to it? 4 murders, ditches closed somewhere that cops don't find them, and then get out by 4:20. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of unanswered questions. Was there video of his parked car? I don't remember seeing any video of his parked car. Not parked, but him in the area trying to park. I believe something was found video of. Let's see. Jinx, I don't think they had where he parked, just driving by and doing turn. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep. That's what I remember too. If this wasn't his first murder or crime, wonder how much he's got away with so far. I just feel like, I don't know why there's nothing that's ever been said or written or posted about this, but I feel like he may have killed one or two people before. I don't know. I don't know why I think that. It's just what keeps kind of coming into my mind and my thoughts whenever I think about it. I just don't feel like this was the first time. But I could be wrong. So Williams says, so they found nothing concrete in his apartment. Imagine that. Yeah, I just don't. I mean, unless these stains turn out to be blood from possible, possibly any of the victims, or not his at all. I don't know. And the hairs, unless those hairs are extremely long. I mean, his hair's not very long. And so when you say a strand of hair, to me, that means longer than his hair. A strand of hair is like pulling one of my hairs out, that's, 10 or 11 inches long. That's a strand of hair to me, but I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, no. Nope, only one Elantra. T1, smart ass. Oh, hi, JD. It's okay. You can listen to it later if you want to. Let's see. William says if they got his DNA back in one day, that they would put it, okay, let me start over. If they got his DNA back in one day, they would have put if it was the victim's hair or dog's hair they found. Well, they haven't tested those items yet, to my knowledge, or they've tested them and haven't got the results back. The only DNA that they got from him was just because he left DNA of some type on that snap of the knife sheath that they didn't have a DNA of his, and so they tested his father's DNA, and that's how they did the familial DNA. You know what? I need Dr. Silkman for this because I don't know, but I think that it's easier to get like, I don't know. I don't even know. I'm not even going to try to speculate. I'm not even going to do it. You're right. I think, yeah, they're both white. If there's two, they're both white, and white is a lot easier to tell than mica teal green or whatever the fuck that was. Yeah, and there's a lot of information that has not been released. Absolutely. Let's see. How much info hasn't been released? Yeah, we don't know. We have no idea. I definitely think there's more than just what we saw in this search warrant at the end right there. I hope. I don't know, because that just doesn't seem like a lot. T1, I don't know. The one in the body cam footage looks more gray than white. JK, dirty, needed washed. Oh boy, God, here we go. Do not get Kelly started. Oh, you're a shit pot stirrer. No, the search warrant was executed November 30th. Would testing take that long? No. William's right. I haven't seen a warrant for the car yet. I don't know when we'll get to see that, but that's where I'm really interested. From what I understand, they're planning to use MVAC technology on the car, but I don't know that for a fact. That's just something that I heard a retired detective say, who I kind of feel like is trustworthy, but he mentioned that they were planning to use MVAC technology on the car, and that would be amazing. Super amazing. Yeah, so Magic, they would definitely have, I mean, at least on those stains, they would definitely have something on the stains. either to maybe not to say exactly who the stains belong to, and of course they're not going to tell us that anyway, but certainly they, if it's his blood or not, you know, if it's not his blood, then they're going to do further testing, and they probably already have, and they probably already have that evidence. Yeah, it's just a comparison. Jinx it, but it only looks gray. Yeah, I agree. They probably have a lot. The William says that'll tell me everything I need to know once we see if they found blood in his car. Yeah. And if he had as much blood on him as I would assume he did, there's got to be blood somewhere in that vehicle. I mean, for Christ's sake, Stephen Avery didn't even get into Teresa Halbach's vehicle, and they found his blood in her vehicle. So, of course, this guy's leaving blood in the car. That was bad. Yeah, I agree. No, it's just not their DNA. Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm thinking too, Jinx, because I really don't feel like it's the first time. Maybe whatever they did find, if it can't be conclusive for the Idaho 4 some way, maybe it does belong to somebody else. Because I don't know. I'm probably wrong, and that's okay. William says, why do you think they tried to seal it? They don't want us to know. They haven't found any concrete evidence. It's simple, really. No, well, so that was sealed. Oh gosh, I can't remember the exact day that it was sealed. But once the PCA came out, but they sealed it because they said that this is Washington. State of Washington is the one who sealed this search warrant. And they did it to protect the surviving victims, the surviving victims' families, the witnesses, and everybody. They did it to protect them. They didn't want to use, put their names out in a search warrant. Well, then it was determined that, okay, we can do it, but we have to just use initials of the survivors. All the kids that were killed, their names have been in the public since the time it happened. But, so once the PCA came out from Idaho, then they said, okay, there's no reason to keep it sealed any longer. That information has been told, and the names have been released since then. So there's no reason to keep that sealed any longer. Because technically they could have left it sealed, just not done anything with it until March. I think they had 90 days or 60 days or something like that, and they could have just left it sealed, but they did do the motion to have it unsealed. So let's see. William, no matter what, blood is impossible to get rid of the proteins. Yeah, exactly. Jinx, I agree, William. The car, I think, should have something in it. Yeah, I think that's where the greatest evidence is going to be, is in that vehicle. And he was seen by the FBI surveillance in Pennsylvania at his parents' house. He was seen trying to clean the car to detail it. And I think there was a comment made by one of the YouTubers that I trust, or feel like I can trust, that said something about the FBI must have been going nuts when he was cleaning that car. Like, it must have taken everything in them not to pounce on him then when they saw him cleaning the car, because they're, no, don't clean away the evidence kind of thing. And so yeah, I'm sure it was pretty tense time watching him clean the car. No blood, then I'll have my answer. yet they haven't released that warrant, which will make them look good if they found blood in the vehicle. Something is off. Yeah, I don't know. You're absolutely right. I'm not saying that that they don't have results, but from the car, but because they found some hair and receipts in the house. um, I think that's where the bulk of the evidence is going to be found. If there's any found, is going to be in the car. And I lost my train of thought. Anyway, so that's, but yeah, I don't feel like what they released from, I don't know when they're going to release the evidence from the car, or the search warrant from the car. But if they are going to use the MVAC technology, I don't know how that goes. I'd have to ask Dr. Silkman, of course. Or I mean, I guess I could research it myself, but I don't know if that does take a long time to sift through all that, evidence that comes from that or not. I just think that now that he's in jail, and there's nobody needs to be physically protected from him anymore. Hopefully they don't hold on to that search warrant for a long time for the car, because I think a lot of us are really anxious to see what comes from that. Shaz says, no, William, they don't want people going crazy on it. It's already been crazy. The survivors have been trashed. People can be mean. Yeah, people have been horrible to those girls. It's really horrible. Behind the Magic says, if BK can prove he was in that house before, how relevant would that sheath be? Just curious. Well, see, I think the sheath would still be relevant, but possibly like that latent shoe print. Other evidence that they might find throughout the house might be called into question. But the sheath alone, I think, is pretty, I think would still be pretty solid. My opinion, of course. I'm not too worried about that, even if he proved he had been in the house before legitimately. But I think any other DNA evidence throughout the house might be called into question. Let's see. Shaz, I think it will come out at preliminary or trial. Probably possibly preliminary. I mean, big stuff will come out during the preliminary hearing for sure. Depends if he placed items in the trunk. He may have wanted to wait until he was out of state to discard those items or evidence. Yeah, I just think, I can't imagine that he took the time to stop and open up the trunk and put anything in it. Maybe he did. I don't know. His claims of high intelligence could be just that, just claims. So it's really hard to say. The search warrant says nothing about the survivors, though. The first affidavit was already out. No, it doesn't. Well, the only thing that the search warrant, this one says, it was, let's see, I'm trying to think. My dates are mixed up in my mind. No, the only thing that the search warrant just repeats everything really that, yeah, I don't know what the purpose of, I mean, I guess they have their reason for sealing that, and they claim that it was the safety of the survivors and everyone else, but I don't know. Jinx, do we know if detailing was something he did often? That is not anything that I've heard as of yet. I don't know if anybody's asked the question. I wondered if that would be a way that they would, if they could show receipts that, he had, plenty of car cleaning supplies at the place, and and at his place, and so they could say, well, he normally did this once a month or whatever. I don't know. Um, so it's really, I would imagine that that would be an argument, though, by the defense if that does come up. Um, but I haven't heard anybody say anything about that, Jinx. Even so, they can't just hit it with the light to see if blood was present in the past. Um, well, I'm sure if I understand what you mean by that one, William. Um, if they MVAC it, uh, like I've heard they could be doing, I don't know that it matters. If it's not his blood, it doesn't matter when it came from at that point. I don't think. Jinx says, I have never had so many comments in a live. You guys are awesome. Will be interesting to see what they result from the car for sure. Yeah, I'm really anxious for the car. Um, Found just dad's DNA in the garbage. I wondered about that too, Magic, because um, I wonder if they tested anything else from that garbage that they could match to the snap on the sheath to make it not that it isn't really basically already 100%, but to make this is the alleged killer's DNA on the snap of this sheath, and this is the same alleged DNA or alleged killer's DNA on this straw that we found in the family garbage. Boom, same person. I don't know if they need to do that or if they did do any testing like that. I don't know if they even looked for anybody else's DNA on in the garbage. I'm sure I can imagine they did, but I don't know. Sapper Cop says the sheath was found right next to the body of Maddie. Can't explain that away. Exactly. Yep. I shouldn't say clown, but this kind of sketchy YouTuber I was listening to today that had the weird mom on his channel said that sheath was placed there on purpose for a reason. He believes it was put there for a reason. It wasn't a mistake. And you know what? He could be right. It could have been trying to send a message. I don't know what that message would have been, but it's possible. But yeah, you can't really explain, leaving that. And Magic says, I was just thinking if he'd been in the house during a party and left his knife behind, theoretically it could have been used by someone else. Just speculating, obviously. Could be. Could be. Jinx says, or not his, but someone showed it to him and he played with it. Also, just speculating. All the facts are not known to me yet, not to any of us. Yeah, that's why I keep trying to stay on top of it, because I don't want to miss anything. Um, so yeah, we're all just kind of speculating our own thoughts and opinions, and which is fine. Why did they not take the garbage thrown out from the car that he was cleaning? I don't know if they did or they didn't. I don't. I never heard anybody say or anything in a report that said that he took any garbage out. But I don't know. That doesn't mean they didn't. But if he was trying to be meticulous and think he was on top of it and being, that the cops weren't onto him, he may have just been taking stuff out of his car regularly on a regular basis at the gas station. That's usually when I take the bulk of my garbage out of my truck, is when I go to the gas station and fill up. I'm, piling up a little bag of garbage to throw in the garbage at the same time while I'm there. But I don't know. I have no idea. They may very well have been doing that. Shaz, I don't think that he was ever at a party there. He was a bit of a loner, mouthy when he had a few. He just doesn't seem to fit in with them, in my opinion. He would really have stood out at a party that they had. Could very well be. And the two survivors haven't, to my knowledge, made any such claims that they've ever seen him there or may have seen him there at one of their parties. Rosie, I wonder whether BK has ever been in the house before, either a party or event in the past burglary he carried out to get a layout of the house or got details of the layout online, which was available. Yeah, we know that. Just if you had gone to someplace like Zillow or something, you can find those kinds of things. Sapper Cop. If someone was just casually showing him a knife, then their DNA would be on it too. And I'm wondering too, they got that DNA from the report from the snap of that sheath. There's most likely also other DNA on that sheath that could be obtained, blood that we can't see, or skin cells if he handled it barehanded or somebody handled it barehanded. Of course, they would have handled it bare hands probably at the knife store, but that's something that I think they could come back to if they wanted. So, Jinx, but there was only DNA on or in the snap, so it was cleaned of other fingerprints and stuff. It seems it's like a it's not like a leather. I don't think it was like a leather. What's the word? How like leather or a hard surface could hold a print. I don't think it was. It was like a canvas type of material, from what I understand, but I could be wrong. And Chaz possibly says to behind the magic, possibly, but he doesn't seem like he would fit in. Someone would have noticed. Could be, and we still don't know if somebody hasn't made a statement that says they've seen him in the house. So, the snap was metal and could have held a print. No, I would think that it could have held a print. I don't think it, but I think they got like skin cells or something off of that, from what I understand. So there's, I mean, there's just so many, possibilities that we're just not going to know until we get to preliminary and to an eventual trial. And Sapricop says there's still a lot we don't know. So they have not had to release everything they have in these warrants. They just need enough to affect the arrest and the searches. Exactly. And that's kind of where I think, they're giving what they have to give to get the arrest and to get the warrants. And I think the rest will come out. Whether they prove that it's him or that he had an accomplice or whatever, this isn't the meat of the details. This is just like a snack, I guess, an appetizer, possibly, if you want to look at it that way. The main course will come, whenever they get to trial. So, Jinx, leather would still collect other people's DNA, or no? Yeah, of course it would. That's why I was saying, that's kind of hard to either circumstances, leather or canvas type. You've got everybody who's ever shopped for that knife and looked at it and held it, and people don't just go in and say, let me see that knife there, and then not touch it. When somebody's going to buy a knife, they want to hold that knife and know how it feels in their hand and how it fits on their belt or in their pocket or whatever. And, so many people are handling it. So, but the fact that his DNA did come from the snap is a pretty big find, I think. I mean, to at least affect the arrest. So when did the skin cells get there? Before or during the crime? Just wondering. Who knows? If he was wearing gloves, probably before, I would imagine. And I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just wondering too. I'm wondering about everything. They are stitched plus stapled around the sheath, so many areas to get DNA. Yeah. June or years from now. Well, I'm not sure in June or years from now. So the preliminary, not the actual preliminary hearing, but the well, maybe it is. I think no. The preliminary hearing is set for June 26th through the 30th. So that's for the hearing itself. But there will be another date. There will be other dates, I think, probably in between before we get to that point. Yes, yep, definitely the tip of the iceberg for sure. There's just nothing. What little bit we have is what we have. And things might trickle out here and there. I just don't know we're going to get a whole lot more unless for some reason they feel like it's necessary, for the public to know some things. I don't think, I don't know, but it doesn't seem like, they, of course we don't want to be, we don't want all the information now, of course, and it wouldn't be feasible because that's stuff to say for the preliminary and particularly for the trial. But no, they won't share everything in June. Exactly. It will just be like a little mini, it's not a trial, it's a hearing. They call it a hearing. But it's just a little mini tiny bit of to make sure of a trial, to make sure that what they are going to share there is enough to warrant a trial. And I believe that's when he will, I'm not sure if he hasn't even been indicted. So I know they still have to go to that point too, for him to be indicted, for him to make his plea. And so we still have those court dates to come. But I just don't feel like they're going to share a whole lot more until the preliminary hearing, honestly. But that's just me speculating because I don't know much at all. Shad says, no, they will only share what they have to. They will save as much as possible for the trial. He's insisting he's innocent. Yeah. Yeah, I would expect some pretty big wow moments during the trial that we haven't known about. Rosie, so they could have already found DNA in his car, but just not sharing that info for now. They sure could have. I know that the car was seized in Pennsylvania, but I don't know where it is now. I don't know. If they were smart, they would have, they did. They seized it in Pennsylvania, and I believe they took it to their crime lab. And if they were smart, or maybe I'm just thinking, think I'm better than I am, but I would think that it would make sense to me that the crime lab, is going to test it from Idaho, that they would come to Pennsylvania and do all the forensic work on that vehicle in Pennsylvania, and not try to move it from Pennsylvania to Idaho. So many questions could arise from that. So many things could happen in that transportation. Look what happened with Stephen's car, or with Teresa's car, from Manitowoc to Milwaukee. Or for crying out loud, it took them how many hours to get there when it should have taken an hour and 20 minutes or something. So, it said, okay, so Behind the Magic says she heard that the car stayed in Pennsylvania. I hope so. I don't know that I've heard where it is, but that would make the most sense to me. Just leave the car in Pennsylvania and let Idaho come out to Pennsylvania and do the forensics on it out there. That would make the most sense, I think. It just, that way there can't be, Exactly. Yeah, the RAV went through the conference. That would, because that's what I mean. How many questions has it raised with us in Stephen's case about the RAV? Though that what, like 2.5 hours of time that's unaccounted for, between the salvage yard and the crime lab, is like, we're all speculating everything that could have possibly happened during that time, and we believe we know exactly what happened. So yeah, they're not going to risk, not that they're following, looking at the Avery case and going, oh, we don't want that to happen to us. But logically that just makes sense, right, to just leave it where it is and test it there. So yeah. Let's see here. I bet they will pull it to pieces. I think they did take it to Idaho Crime Lab. Oh, I hope not. I don't think they are like Manitowoc. I hope they didn't transport it. I just, not because I don't trust them necessarily, but because so much can get taken to the quarry. Oh, geez. Oh, man. Now you sound like T1. But just, what I mean, a crash could happen. God, that would be horrible if the trailer that was in or on or in got rear-ended in an accident or something. And I know, we don't like to think of, things like, they don't like to think bad things are going to happen, but you can't take a chance on that. Like on a case like this, you just, to me, I don't know, but yeah, definitely comic relief. Yeah, we always need comic relief. Thank you. Yeah, we'll have to see what we can find out. I just think I heard it on one of the crime channels I watch. Yeah, it's very possible. We'll have to see what we can find out about that. I'm sure somebody knows somewhere out there. Because I really, my vote is that that Idaho went to the crime lab in Wisconsin. Oh God, in Pennsylvania. That's my vote. That's what should happen. So, all right. I think that we covered quite a bit of that, and I think it was extremely, yeah, exactly. That's my point. It's just safer to be tested there. So I hope that's what was done, or what is being done. So I'm going to shift gears just a little bit. I did mention that we would, oops, let me close that. Yes. Let me close that. Trying to close some stuff here. So I can actually show, God, I hope I didn't, did I close down StreamYard? No, I did not. I did mention that I was going to kind of give a tiny update on Richard Glossip in Oklahoma. Oklahoma got a new attorney general in the recent election, and he started, I believe, this month. I think it's when everybody took office, was sometime this month. So he has asked, let's see. Oklahoma AG files a motion requesting delay for 7 impending executions, one of them being Richard Glossip, of course. I haven't listened to this yet, so we're going to all listen to it together. It's probably going to be one of their stupid pizza ads or toll road ads or something, but we'll listen to this and see what this news, Coco News, says about it. The article itself is very short.
It's on everyone's mind. Crushing inflation from food to gas to housing. Costs are rising and there's no end in sight. But don't worry, I'm here for you. I'm Jeff Rawson, and every week I help you save money and beat inflation with high-tech apps, free technology, and insider tips. We're going to help you save money to beat inflation. Watch Rawson Reports every week right here on KOCO 5 News.
Sworn in Oklahoma Attorney General Gentner Drummond filing a motion requesting that 7 executions be delayed.
So there are currently 21 executions pending in the state. The request would push back several executions by 60 days for Richard Glossop, Jermaine Cannon, Anthony Sanchez, Philip Hancock, and 3 others. Drummond says he visited with family members of the victims before making this request.
Wow. That was very brief. and the article itself was very brief as well. Whoops. Was also very brief, because my question was, I was kind of curious whether Glossop gets an additional 60 days, because Stitt granted him 60 days in, I want to think it was November. Yeah, it must have been late November, because he's now been stayed till the month of February. I don't remember the exact date. So does he get an additional 60 days beyond the February date? I hope. But at least they now have an attorney general who is a little more serious about these death penalty cases. Behind the magic, has anyone heard about BK changing the title of his car 5 days after the murder? Just curious. He didn't change the title, but he did change the state where it was registered. So, because it was registered in Pennsylvania, and then, nope, oh, I can't remember now. It was registered in Pennsylvania, and then after the murders, he registered in the state of Washington. Because in Washington, they're required by law, Washington and Idaho, they're required by law to have front and back plates on the vehicle. Pennsylvania, they're not required to have front plates. And I believe in a report somewhere whether it was a witness statement or a witness or what it was exactly, I think it was in the PCA. It said that there was in a car that they were looking at on video footage or whatever they had, surveillance, there was no front plate on it, which would fit because in Pennsylvania you didn't have to display a front plate. But then after the murders, then he registered in the state of Washington where he had to display a front plate. So so that's what I had mentioned. I was going to just touch on Richard Glossop. If you guys, many of you have watched, many of my podcasts or heard me talk about the case at any other time on another channel or anything, I believe in Richard Glossop is innocent. He's 100% innocent. And I believe, oh, no, you're fine. You didn't interrupt. I could have ignored you if I wanted to. If I didn't want to talk about it, I wouldn't have said, I'm just kidding. But I just believe that an innocent man is going to be executed in Oklahoma. And I don't know. It's killing me. It's absolutely kills my gut every time I think about Richard Glossop, because even though he's had all of the stays that he's had and all of the interventions that he's had, it's I don't know. I just feel like maybe it was just to give him more time, because he's been strapped to the bed, to the gurney twice, almost 3 times, and then was on death watch last year again, and then he got a stay by Governor Stitt. So Magic, Richard Glossop, and I don't have my team members here and my fabulous mods to help me here, but um, hopefully he's getting another 60 days, Shaz, beyond the February date. I think he should. That makes sense to me. But short recap, I don't remember the year. It was sometime in the 80s, I believe. A hotel owner was murdered inside of one of his hotel rooms. And Richard Glossop at the time was a young man. I think it was 19 or 20, maybe 18, 19, 20, maybe older, a little older. But he was the manager of the hotel for Van Treese, the man's name. Well, his name was Barry Van Treese, the owner. And one night, Barry Van Treese was bludgeoned to death in one of the hotel rooms. Glossop was very quickly pointed out, brought in, and and questioned and accused. And then, he denied doing it. His story has never changed. He's always, maintained that he had nothing to do with the murder of his boss. And he, so not only was he murdered, but there was a bunch of money stolen from him as well, from Van Treese. And then it came out that Justin Sneed was working for Glossop. So Glossop was the manager, and he hired somebody on to help, with maintenance and stuff like that at the hotel. He hired this 18-year-old kid, Justin Sneed. Justin Sneed has admitted to killing Van Treese, and the dirty investigators and detectives in Oklahoma City. At the time, I can't remember their names, but their names I'm very familiar with that I just can't remember. But anyway, they got Sneed in the room and told him, look, if you don't point the finger at Glossop, you're going to be getting the death penalty, because he's saying it was you. You're the one who did it. And this was before Sneed confessed. And then Sneed was like, oh shit, if I don't blame it on Richard, they're going to give me the death penalty. And they were specifically saying, you need to pin this on Richard, or you're going to end up getting the death penalty. You admit that he was the one that did it. Well, Sneed ends up confessing, but he says that Richard Glossop made him do it, forced him to do it, threatened him to do it. So Justin Sneed has admitted to killing Barry Van Treese, the owner of the hotel. So he got life in prison without the possibility of parole. Richard Glossop was supposedly forced Justin Sneed to do this murder. He's on death row. So that's about as nutshell as I can turn it. And then they've had multiple investigations. Richard has had 2 trials. They're horrible. They did. They gave Justin the deal that, Richard Glossop should have never been accused of anything, because there's no physical evidence at all. There's no evidence whatsoever at all of Richard Glossop being anywhere near this crime. But because the detectives bullied Sneed and told him, you better tell him it was Richard, or you're going to be getting the death penalty. Yeah, it's disgusting. I'm telling you guys, I say this all the time. People that watch my channel regularly probably get tired of it, but I know Manitowoc, I know Wisconsin is bad, but I'm telling you what, I think as far as history goes and the history of corruption, Oklahoma City's worse. they have executed innocent men, and maybe that's part of it too. I mean, Wisconsin doesn't have the death penalty, so maybe if they did, we would be seeing a lot more corruption than what we have with the Avery and other cases. But because Oklahoma has the death penalty, they've executed innocent men who have been proven to be innocent, before they were executed or right after they were executed. And it's a horrible, horrible history that Oklahoma City has. Plus the death penalty. But it's not just that one though, Magic. There are many, many. I have in my Discord, there's a book area where I recorded several, I think like 10 or 11 chapters of a book called Death and Justice. And it's a story. It's not a story. It's nonfiction about Oklahoma's, it's called Death and Justice, Oklahoma's Death Row Killing Machine. And it's really talking about the crime lab analyst, as she's the death row killing machine because she falsified so much forensic evidence in her crime lab, much, much worse than Sherry Cohen, much worse, and sent men to prison for life or death row, had men executed, with false forensic evidence. And the DA at the time she was working was Bob Macy, and he was just bloodthirsty. He wanted every freaking felony crime to be a death penalty case, and he was evil, evil, evil. She was eventually. They eventually had to do a couple of investigations into her, to Joyce Gilchrist. That's what her name was. They did several investigations into her and finally fired her in, I think it was 1999 or 2000. And then she died several years later. But she's terrible. So you could either listen to my recordings of the first 10 or 11 chapters of that book, Death and Justice, in my Discord, or on my YouTube channel back about a year or so ago, there's several videos that I have on Joyce Gilchrist and Bob Macy. And I don't know how familiar very good. That's actually a really good way to describe her. A crime lab serial killer. Abso-fucking-lutely. Yep. She was the queen of death row death. She was horrible. But okay, so the reason that I did so much research on Bob Macy and Joyce Gilchrist, and I don't know, you're probably not really very familiar with Daniel's case. Maybe you are, I don't know, but Daniel Holtzclaw. But the crime lab analyst that did the DNA testing on Daniel's uniform pants, first of all, is the mother-in-law to one of the detectives who set him up, who was involved in setting him up, first of all. Secondly, she was trained and worked under Joyce Gilchrist for years in the Oklahoma City crime lab. And she falsified DNA evidence in Daniel's case. So that's kind of a nutshell why I was looking into the history of the crime lab. So, but yeah, I will. I don't know. I have my own Discord, Magic. I don't know if you've joined it or not. It's Daniel's Truth. But that's where you would find it, is in my Discord. And so I can send you an invite, or you can find it through one of the other people in Foul Play. But yeah, crazy place. Crazy. Oklahoma City's horrible. And right now we're in the middle of working on Daniel Holtzclaw's post-conviction relief case. So, and we're just kind of in a lull right now, which is why I haven't really been covering much about Daniel. these other things have just been kind of fillers for me, albeit very important. So anyway, gosh, you guys have been great in the chat. Let's see. So this guy was convicted and got the death penalty by just an accusation from the guy who actually carried out the murder. Well, yeah, yes. And the guy who did it, was coerced or bullied or threatened by the detectives to accuse him. So let me grab a link for you. You should be able to find a link on my page here on my YouTube page, but let me see if I can grab a link here really quick. People. Whoops. Okay, this should. All right, this should work. Okay. And then once you get there, there's a room called, you scroll down and there's a room called, sorry guys, I can never remember where it is. It's the library. It's called the library. I think there's a room in here called the library. But if not, where are all of my mods? Cherie, where are you? I'll find it, Magic, and I'll let you know the details of where it is. In Daniel's case, the Innocence Project can't really help in Daniel's case because it's not a DNA case, oddly enough. DNA is what supposedly convicted him, but it's not a DNA case. Go figure. Well, the reason it truly isn't a DNA case, it's the lies about the DNA that make it crazy. So, yeah. Anyway, if you want to join the Discord, that would be amazing. I would invite anybody that's here in the chat that already isn't in the Discord, Daniel's Truth. I would love to. The guy on death row. Well, there was no DNA in his case. In the Van Treese murder, there was no DNA collected or claimed or used in the. He just admitted to killing it. Beat him to death with a baseball bat. And there was no DNA that they could use because there was no like stabbing or gunshot or anything like that. And the guy worked in the hotel, so his DNA in the room where the owner was, where Van Treese was, is going to be there because he works there. So there was no DNA at all involved in the Glossop case. So yeah, the only thing that's going to help him is, I don't know, Governor Stitt, pardoning him, which he should, because, there's been a lot of investigation done, most recently just last year, by a major law firm in, I think, Texas, that volunteered to completely open the case and reinvestigate it. And they believe they found exculpatory evidence for Richard. But, this new governor now, or this new attorney general, hopefully is going to make it so that, you know, he can go to Governor Stitt and say, look, go to the Pardon and Parole Board mostly and say, this is the evidence we have in proving this man's innocence, you know. And it's just, you know, it sucks because when you're dealing with wrongful conviction cases, you guys know as well as I do that there are more haters out there than there are people who believe in the innocent. And it's so hard to, and especially when it's a government and they're trying to, you know, speak the power of the people, you know, and Oklahoma's bad. They're just horrible. So, you know, anything, I hope I'm wrong. I so hope I'm wrong. But, you know, to get Richard Glossip off death row would just make my year. It really would. You know, and if he manages to get a sentence reduction from death to life without parole, I can live with that too. And then, you know, then we can work on it from that point. But once he's dead, he's dead. You can't take it back. So that's what's so scary. But you guys have been fabulous tonight. Thank you so much for sticking through all of this and for just listening to just me by myself. Oh, there's my Cherie. God, just when I'm getting ready to close up, she pops in. Oh, in the library and audiobooks. I couldn't find the library. So I wasn't able to get her that link, but we'll be able to. Yeah, I don't know where. Yeah. Anyway, I sure have missed having you here. I've been solo all night. You remember the first year I was doing YouTube, doing the podcasts and stuff? No, you have to be, don't leave me alone. Like, blah, blah, blah. And now I just am so used to just talking, whether people are listening or not. I just blah, blah, blah all by myself. It was no problem. But we've had a really great chat tonight. Lots of great questions, great comments. It's been really good. So, but we're just getting ready to sign off. I am going to, my plan is to do a regular Thursday night podcast and talk about the next in line of accusers in Daniel's case, and start talking about her ridiculous accusation and kind of trying to get back started up with, you know, some of the accusers in his case. So, but until then, and you know what, those of you who haven't followed Daniel's case and you're only hearing about it because you're following the Idaho 4 case when I talk about it, you know, check out some of the videos about Daniel's case, or just listen tomorrow night and listen to this crazy accusation, and you'll be like, wait a minute, what the fuck what is she talking about? Because it's crazy. And so, you know, just, you know, pop in tomorrow and we're going to talk about Shardarian Hill. And Daniel, I can't remember how many charges. I think she had 3 or 4, maybe more, 6 or 8 accounts against him. And he was found not guilty on all of her charges. So, because her story was just so ridiculous and outlandish. I mean, I don't know why the jury gave him not guilty on her charges, but probably, if I had to guess, they listened to what she was saying and said, bitch, you're crazy. There's no way any of that happened. So you'll just, I don't know, just check in. Just out of curiosity tomorrow, just check in and listen to it. But until then, all of you who've been in the chat, who've stayed in the chat, who have contributed with comments and questions and everything else and humor, thank you so much. It's really made a great solo podcast for me, my first solo podcast, and you guys in the chat are the ones who made it great. So thank you guys so much for being here. Yeah, was it good evidence? Oh, we're showing that part. Don't you worry, Cherie. You know we're showing that. And I, until we get something new on the Kohberger case, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and keep covering Daniel or other corrupt things that are going on in Oklahoma City. I'll keep you updated on Richard Glossip, as much as I can. Really, nothing's getting said. So other than this article that came out today, but we'll see what happens. We'll see if they get granted this extra 60 days. If not, Richard Glossip is set to be executed, I think, within the next month, maybe 6 weeks. So I'll keep you updated on that as well. Tomorrow, though, back on Daniel's Accusers, we're going to talk about Shardarian Hill, crazy accusations she makes. And next time we hear something new about Kohberger, we'll bring that to you as well. But in the meantime, you guys have a great night, and thank you for being here, and peace out.